Hey, everybody, welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I do hope that you're having the most delicious day. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm your host. I'm glad to be here. And today, my guest is Ellen Mann. She is with Chrysalis Home Staging Incorporated. We're going to find out all about what she does and how she might benefit you. Thanks so much. Have a great day. I hope so far. Pardon me, I'm just all of a sudden got myself twisted, but that's normal for my show. Ellen, how are you today? Thanks for being with us.
I'm well, thank you, and thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you. I don't know a lot about what it is that you do. I know that I enjoy the idea of walking into a well-staged home. Tell me a little bit about what you do and why you love what you do as much as you do.
Well, I work with realtors, builders, developers, home flippers, and homeowners. And what I do is help them get their house prepared for market. I think most people know that they should get their car detailed when they're going to sell the car, and the principles of home staging are pretty similar, actually. We want to make sure that the house looks fabulous in your list photos, because with the MLS and with people being able to go on and look at list photos, we want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward.
And that does make sense to me. I know when I first moved to Nanaimo some 13 years ago and bought the home I'm in now, it was beautifully staged. And there was something about the concept that you can see yourself living in that home. And so I'm curious, were you always a decorator? Is that something that you loved, or what made you decide to do this work?
So I actually had a career in the oil industry doing project management and behavior change management and communications management for 30 years. I
Wow.
worked at the corporate office for Chevron for all of that time. And during that time, I got a divorce when my kids were 8 and 6. And I learned very quickly that, I bought what I could afford and moved up and moved up and moved up as I was raising my boys. And
Yeah,
I realized very quickly that the homes that I staged for sale sold way faster and for way more money than if I just allowed people to come in and see how we were living in the home. So I
absolutely.
kind of learned on the job, and I have to be honest, real estate has been an absolute passion of mine since I was in my early 20s. So I would go and look at every listing I could see. And once it was on the MLS and I could actually go and look at the pictures inside, my automatic go-to was, oh my gosh, if that was my house, I would change this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And every lunch hour, I would go for a walk. I would go to my desk with my lunch and I would be looking at listings. So this has been a underground passion of mine for a very long time. And in 2014, I got downsized with 150 of my friends and I lost my 30-year career. So,
Wow.
pretty devastating to me, but I knew for basically a year beforehand that they were restructuring the company. And when you're a female in your mid 50s making a lot of money, um, you're kind of an easy target because they can get somebody younger in to do my job.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
um, so for that entire year, I was starting to think about what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
So I had made the decision before. I'd been through layoffs before. I'd never once packed anything, and that layoff, I knew I was going to be gone. So
Oh
I
my gosh, that must have been devastating for you.
was
I mean, 30
devastated.
years is a long time to be
It
doing
was
something. Yeah.
it was devastating. There is no other word for that. But you know
Yeah.
what? I got let go in September, and I went and got my training done in November, and I opened my company in January. So
Yeah,
uh,
the grass does not grow under your feet, and that's a very, very good thing.
yeah.
I think that a lot of people don't understand that change happens to all of us, whether we, want it to happen or not, and whether we expect it or not.
Yeah.
But it's what you do with that change that becomes so much a gift to what your future looks like. Have you found that that transition from that 30 years to where you are now has really been a much more fulfilling way of living, or how
Oh,
how was that transition for
100%.
you?
I
Yeah,
I've had two jobs in my life where I've gone, you know what? People are paying me to do this. And one of
how
them was
lucky.
was
Yeah,
radio and TV. I loved being in radio and TV, but I'll be honest, I wanted to eat and pay rent. So
that's
I
true.
decided to go back to Chevron, after I went and got my communications education.
Yeah.
And this job is the same. I love it. I
Mhm.
have, you have difficult clients once in a while, and you have difficult days or some project doesn't go right, but this keeps my mind engaged because it's very much project management. I think people think that I walk in and I point and tell people where to put stuff and stand in my heels and pearls and make magic. But I'm actually, with my husband, we are a very small team now. I had a team in Calgary, but it's my husband and me now. So when you see a couch coming in or out of a house,
Yeah. It's the
most
two
of
of
the
you
time it's
doing
he and
it.
I moving it. So
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
very glamorous, but certainly, I know that I'm making a material difference
Yeah.
to my homeowners.
Yeah.
So to give you just a quick indication, we did a house on Ross Road recently,
Yeah.
and we got it staged. I brought everything in. So in that case, it was an empty house. So we furnished an empty home. We brought everything in, and in the first 8 days on the market, we had 35 showings, 9 offers, and it went for
Wow.
67,000 over list. So it is
Wow.
a material difference that we make when we
Yeah.
come to a home. Um,
Wow.
but we don't just do empty homes. We also work with homeowners' own furnishings,
Hmm.
because most people don't set their house up to be perfect for the camera. And a tweak here and there can make a huge difference in how your list photos look.
Well,
So, big
there's a
part of
lot of
it.
people out there that are HGTV fans. I can tell you that I am one, and I absolutely love watching transitions in homes happen. It's a little love thing that I have going on. It's as you pointed out earlier in our conversation, it's not an easy thing to do necessarily. Like, it's not just going, okay, well, I think I'll put this there and put that there. There is a technique to this. There's an
Yeah.
eye to this. So, and I don't have that eye. I wish I had it. I rely on people like you who do have that eye. Tell me about that eye. Like, what are some of the basics that people need to understand when they think about home staging? Is there a bit of a blueprint that people can
Oh,
think
for
about?
sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
So every realtor on the planet, I think, has been sort of educated to tell people to depersonalize and
yes,
declutter, right? Which is true up to a point. My job is to make sure that the house retains enough character to be warm and inviting. Because if all you do is take down every piece of artwork, paint the walls white, remove every single accessory, then the house looks very sterile and cold. My job is to make sure that it's warm and welcoming. That's one of the things I'll say. Um, One thing that I recommend to everyone who's listing their house, just like you would do with your car, have it cleaned.
yeah.
Nobody wants
Professionally.
to move into someone else's dirt ever.
Nope. So true.
Um, and the other thing is that I work very closely with photographers. So in part of my past life, when I was working at Chevron, I also had a photography company. Because part of education when you're taking radio and television is to learn camera angles and learn
Yeah.
how the camera works and learn how to set up a shot. So I work very closely with the photographers that I work with most often, and a lot of my job is making sure that the camera angle of your living room isn't showing the back of a piece of furniture,
Right.
showing into the room, and that you're using what we call the rule of thirds. So your visual field is divided into 9 squares, and you want to make sure that you don't have absolutely everything in that center square, sort of. So it's understanding how the camera is going to see the property, I think, is really important. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients, I do a lot of consultations where a realtor will invite me to go and meet with their clients, and I walk them through their home, and we discuss those camera angles, and we discuss colors that are effective for staging and those that aren't.
Hmm.
Because I can tell you right off the bat that if you've got a ton of red in your house, I'm probably going to talk to you about paint,
Yep.
because red is
Yep.
a really difficult color for MLS photos.
Sure.
We use furniture to direct the eye toward things I want people to notice. And so when you're walking through your house, every room should have a focal point. And you need to understand that the focal point when you're listing your house is something we're selling. So what are we selling? We're selling flooring, walls, windows, fireplaces, high ceilings, beams, those sorts of things. And when somebody is walking through your house, I don't want them fixating on the items you have in your house. I want them fixating on the things that their money is buying.
Exactly, because they're not often buying the furniture or the fixtures or any of those things.
Right.
I remember when I sold my house in Maple Ridge, and I had a stager come in, and my stager at the time, and so just up there, did exactly what you said in the beginning. She suggested that all of the color that I had in my house needed to go, and everything needed to go to white and minimalist and very, very simple. But you know what? My house was a character farmhouse. And
Mhm.
because it was a character farmhouse, it all got lost in the white.
Yeah.
It actually never did sell during that time, partially because I think that we went to the extreme. I think that we went too far. And of course, there were other variables as well. I mean, the markets were changing, all kinds of, there was lots of reasons why. But one of the things that I noticed was people used to come into my home and say, "Oh my God, I love your house. I love your house." And then when I changed it, it was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, right? So how do you find that line? Like there is a line, and I'm
There is.
curious. Yeah,
There is
what?
for sure. And if a stager goes in and doesn't understand the style and the vintage of the home
Yeah,
and works against that, bad staging can be very detrimental.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So at this point in my career, I've been in 1,250 homes. So we
Fantastic.
go in and, we work with the architecture that's there. Um, we don't bring in a ton of color, that's true. But if you come in with whites and creams and beiges and, the odd pop of, say, caramel or something like that,
Yeah, the neutrals.
then you use texture to bring in the character that may be missing. And we don't go into every house and say, paint it white.
Yeah,
There are some colors that, are sort of standard staging colors, and they are neutrals. But a stager also has to understand what the fixed elements are. So, if the fixed element in a house, for example, in a farmhouse, is likely going to be warm undertones in the things that are there. So if you paint a stark white, it jars people when they walk in the door and they can't put their finger on what's wrong. So you
exactly.
have to be able to work with the character of the house and to bring it up to modern standards, but understanding the character of the house. So, my house is black, white, and gold, and the odd caramel pop and lots of greenery. I work with a lot of greenery in any of my stages. But that means that I'm not going to come in with a farmhouse style, light fixture. And in a farmhouse, you are going to come in with that black wrought iron, candelabra style light fixture.
Absolutely. Sure.
So
Yeah.
recognizing the character of the house, leaving the character of the house while still making it inviting and looking like somebody can move their stuff in and have it still look good, I guess is how I would put that.
Well, and I also think personality has so much to do with the concept of staging too, right? You've got, you're trying to appeal to respectfully as many personalities as you can, having that opportunity for people to see themselves living there and also having them walk away. I suspect, I mean, I could be dead wrong, and please correct me if I am, but I want to have that lasting memory of walking into a place. And I did with my home that I'm in now. I went to about a dozen different houses within a short period of time because I lived on the mainland. And so I had to come here and make up my mind and, try to fix things together in a short period. And what I learned was after going through, I started in the home that I'm in now. I went to a whole bunch of other places. The one that kept coming to me was this house. And partially because it was staged in the similar way that you're talking about. It was enough of the warmth and the character that it made it so memorable for me and has remained that way for the last 13 years, right? I think that people want to see themselves walk away and go, oh, that's mine. That's
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And
What do you,
in order to get there, we need to get as many people into the house as we possibly can.
exactly.
So one of the biggest mistakes homeowners make, and I always hate those, 10 mistakes homeowners make, but I will give you one. And that is that they will say, all we need is one buyer. So that gets put into a home seller's brain. Yes, you only need the one buyer, but in order to find that one person, you have to get as many people through as you possibly can. So,
Absolutely.
it's a matter of understanding how to create a place that people go into. And yes, we want it to be memorable. Absolutely.
Yes.
There are ways of doing that. And the best way of doing that is showing people, for example, lots of the farmhouse style homes or lots of the character homes in this area, because the building permits were what they were when a lot of these houses were built. They'll
Mhm.
have some awkward area that someone doesn't know what to do with. And a
Sure.
lot of the time, my job is to give that awkward space a purpose. So can we fit a small office space in an alcove, for example? Can we put a beautiful piece of art in that to showcase it? What can we use the awkward spaces for? And
Yes.
I think that's one thing. People don't even see them then. In a lot of cases too, we'll update light fixtures, strategic light fixtures. And there's a very real reason why we do that. Light fixtures are the jewelry of your home. They're one of the
Mhm.
cheapest things that you can update in a house if you do it right. And what it does is rather than picking the perfect light fixture for somebody walking in going, oh my God, I'm in love with the dining fixture, it's to avoid objections. So
Yes.
you have left a 1990s brass and acrylic chandelier that hasn't been dusted for 25 years above your dining table. I'm probably going to suggest a change, which is probably going to be in the $150 to $250 range to replace. And what that's going to do is make that fixture disappear for a buyer coming in, because when they come in your house, you have 3 to 6 seconds to
Yes.
they're deciding if you're a no in that time frame.
For sure.
So, I have walked into houses with clients where and I did it myself, honestly, when we were looking here, open
Mhm.
the front door and go, nope, and shut
Nope.
the door.
I have done that as well. And partially it's the feeling that's in that house too, that it's not even, not only the staging and the way that the house presents, but there are homes that I have walked into and said, not only can I not see myself here, I think this thing should be floored. Like
Yes.
goodbye. Like it, and you want to avoid that if you're trying to get market value, at least for the home that you want to see yourself in the future. You need to be able to do that transition. I think that that leads me to the question regarding the mistakes that we make, the simple, easy mistakes that everyone makes when we think about how, there are people that are on the edge that don't necessarily financially have enough means to be able to do a lot of changes. And so, yes, a light fixture, $100 or $150 or something like that, or $250, those are inexpensive fixes. But some of those bigger pieces, people are often frightened of. And I wonder how you work with people that are like, I've got no budget. This is a take it or leave it situation. How can we make this work without having to do those huge expenditures to make it a place that I probably wouldn't want to move out of if it were fixed?
Yeah. So because I work with a lot of realtors, They quite often will bring me in just for a consultation. So that means that I do walk through and I will suggest those things, but I do understand that people have a budget, and a lot
Mhm.
of times we have to work what's in the house.
Yeah.
So it harkens back to the furniture placement. But I do want to mention one thing.
Mhm.
The National Association of Realtors, not the Staging Association, the Realtors Association, keeps
Yeah.
stats on the difference paid for similar homes in similar areas for houses that are staged and those that are not. And staging can mean just rearranging the furniture, as I said. However, a lot of times it will include, oh my gosh, you've got that fabulous brick red wall in your bedroom that probably we should paint. Oftentimes it's just painting that one wall.
Right.
Other thing is strategic lighting updates, as we said, or hardware on your cabinetry in your kitchen, for example. They keep track of that, and they've come up with a number, and any realtor listening can go and look this up. The return on investment for staging is about 490%, I believe it is.
Wow.
So I know it's well over 400. It's either 467 or 490 something. The return on investment, where else can you get that?
You can't. And what a wonderful figure that is. Right.
Yeah,
I think that people underestimate the the value, pardon me, of bringing professionals in to
they
make
do.
your house make sense in order to sell it quickly.
A
Mm.
lot of times, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but a lot of times I will go in to do a consultation with a couple that is selling a home. And a lot of times I will have the husband say, well, my wife's going to take care of that, right? And oftentimes they'll be in an adjoining room or something like that, and we start talking stats. So, for example, houses with black front doors, exterior doors, statistically sell for over $6,000 more than any other color door.
Wow.
And so a husband will listen to some of the things I'm talking about. And the next thing I know, they're with us on that tour, because they do start to understand that it's very material. So if you've got a realtor that's going, oh, I don't believe in staging, or no, we don't stage houses and you don't need a stager, I would be questioning that, because it's material to the home seller.
It's
So
a
say,
flag. Yeah.
if it's $6,000 or $12,000 difference in the house price, it's not much to them when you translate that into their commission, but it's very real to the home sellers, right? That's money in their pocket.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, just the idea of the black door, I think what a lot of people don't understand too is that women make decisions differently than men do.
Much differently.
Much differently. For me, there were very specific things I was looking for in my home. And, I'm on my own. So it's my house, it's me. I can do what I want as I like. So I'm a bit fortunate in that way. But I recall when I was married and the decisions that were made were mutual decisions, but women are nesters. That's what we are. I mean, that is not meaning to be sexist. It's what we are. Men, it's more of the outside. Women, it's much more of the inside. I want to know a few things about the home I'm moving into. And a big, big part of it is, how good do I feel in the kitchen? Now, that does not mean I'm a cook. I am not, but it's the place where people gather. Are there, you know what I'm saying? So that
Yes.
whole gathering place for me is arguably the most important thing, because, whether I order in a pizza or whether I cook an elaborate meal, I want my guests always to feel like they can say anything, they can do, and they can enjoy the comfort of my home. It's important to me. What do you say to those, people that are like, whatever, right? Like, is there something to that?
Well, there's absolutely my clients. If there's any of my clients listening to you right now, they're going, oh my gosh, she said exactly that. Men buy yards and garages and basement spaces. And that
Yeah,
is not being sexist either. It's just an absolute fact.
yeah,
Women buy the places the family gathers. So that is your family room, basically, and your kitchen area. and they buy primary bedroom suites. So we
Yes,
always give a bit of a feminine feel, not pink and frilly,
of course.
something that appeals to women in the primary bedroom suite. And we try and make kitchens and family rooms, that sort of space, very welcoming as well,
Yeah.
because women also have the biggest influence statistically on where you're going to live.
That's very true. In fact, I've known people that have come home, husbands that have come home, and their wives have told them, "We're moving,
Yes.
moving. I found a house. We're out of here." And they kind of look and go, "What the heck?" Like it doesn't happen that often, but it happens. It happens a lot.
Yes.
Because we want to be in environments where there is a level of comfort and security and a vibe that just feels safe all the way around. And so I think that it's a really great thing to pay attention to. We're just about halfway through what we've been talking about, and what I really want people to do is go and grab a piece of paper and a pen, because frankly, the stuff that we're talking about, may be someone out there who wants to give you a call and bend your ear and talk to you about this a little bit more. So I do invite our listeners, if you have just tuned in, please go grab yourself a paper and a pen. And Ellen and I are going to continue our conversation about Chrysalis Home Staging Incorporated when we come back in a moment. What I wanted also just to do is a little bit of a quick station identification break. If you have just tuned in, you have tuned into Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. Absolutely fantabulously delighted that you have joined us today, and hope that you join us every week on CHLY 101.7 FM at 1 o'clock. But if you missed the program or you missed the conversation, we do invite you to check us out on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, and on the YouTube channel. So feel free. And also, if you'd like to be a guest on the program, I love new guests. So by all means, give me a call. Find us at act3mediaproductions@gmail.com, or just check us out on our YouTube station and send me a note. In the meantime, there are a few community events that are happening in the next little while. I do want to let you know that there is a group in Cowichan. We're going to hopefully talk about in the next little bit about um, it's called Better Together. Sorry, first day with my new brain. Better Together. And with Better Together, the idea is to talk about those that are unhoused. And I know that in this conversation, we are talking about housed people. We have a huge community issue right now, and we do want to try and find solutions for that. So make sure that you tune in for that as well. Thanks again for tuning on to Act 3. I'll return to Ellen and our conversation. Ellen, thanks again for being here. Absolutely thrilled that we get to have this conversation about a secret passion of mine, which is peeking in people's houses. So tell me more about I mean, I know the logic behind why you started and the transition and the change, but this passion is stayed with you for now a period of time. And I'm curious, as you move forward, like what are some of the things that have you found most inspiring about the work that you have been doing? The things that really resonate with you.
I would say that I'm what's called an outgoing introvert, which is very common in broadcasting people, believe it or not. But I actually really, really love my clients.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed interacting with them, especially when I can see that the light is on and they understand why I'm telling
Yes.
them what I'm telling them. It's absolutely incredible to see the difference they make.
Yeah.
So I worked with a woman in Ladysmith who was escaping a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And she knew that in order to exit her marriage, she needed to get top dollar out of the house that she was selling, because that would set up her life for herself and her kids afterward. And she was firing me pictures as she was going through and doing all the things that we talked about in the consultation. And to see the difference in the space from when I walked in the door to a place, we were talking earlier about how a place feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walking into a place that was full of despair, I think, and watching the transformation into what is going to be an absolutely fabulous home for someone is really, really cool for me.
Yeah.
I love to educate. So I actually serve on the board of directors for the Real Estate Staging Association, and making sure that stagers who are coming up behind me, that they have got the support they need to be successful is really important to me.
Yeah.
I believe very strongly in collaboration over competitions. So I do know a bunch of the stagers that work in the city here. And, I'm pretty amazed at the great work that people put out. And I'm more than happy to go and have a coffee with somebody and discuss this industry, because the words I like to use are that this industry gave me my wings. So there's a reason that my company is called Chrysalis. I was going through a massive personal change at the time that I was let go from my job, because I knew who I was. I walked in the door and I knew where I belonged and what my place was in that microcosm that I worked in for 30 years with the same people for most of that time. And when I lost that, I lost my identity. And butterflies have to be reduced to goo before they spread their wings and fly. And I felt that I was also doing that in the houses I was in, right?
Yes.
We transform them and we show the beautiful butterfly after the fact. And so that name was very important to me. And as I've grown in this industry, I truly feel I've found the place that I was meant to be. So when my husband and I moved here, we were living in Calgary. We had a warehouse, we had a team, I had assistants, I do still have obnoxiously branded vehicles. You see purple and green butterflies on the side of a truck that are huge, it's me. But the bottom line is, when we chose to move here, we had to start over again. So this
Yeah.
is yet another large change for us. And, when I go through and work with clients about how stressful a move is, so death, divorce, and moving, two or three of the really top things for causing stress in a life. I truly have a good understanding and had that awakened again recently, because when we moved to Nanaimo, we moved 5 times in the calendar year that we
Wow.
from Calgary. So
Wow. Wow.
we had the busiest week we'd ever had in this business. We would go to one house and pull out all the furniture from one vacant home, drive to the next one, and install all of that stuff, because it just was happenstance that, oh my gosh, all of the stuff that we have in that house will fit really well in the one we're doing Thursday. So we would just pick up and go.
Move it over for sure.
And the night before this week, so it was 6 days of that.
Wow.
And the night before this week started, Calgary had a massive blizzard. We had 3 feet of snow on the roads, and then it plummeted to -30. And so we were working in that weather, going and loading trucks in one house, driving to the next one, and putting all that stuff in for 6 days. And finally, at the end of the week, my husband looked at me and he goes, "This isn't fun."
No.
And I am so not ready to be done. I am not ready to transition into retirement, because I love what I do every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we made the decision to pack up not just our own home, but 9 homes worth of furniture to move out here. And I believe we've probably got 15 houses worth of furniture now. Um,
Wow. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So
It's a
we have
ton.
built a warehouse on our property, and so we do have multiple styles of furniture, as it isn't all the same stuff. And so we made that transition, but because we moved 5 times, I can tell you that it wasn't any more fun the 5th time.
No. No.
Because you still, even, we moved into an Airbnb for 6 months when we got here, and we were living out of very limited stuff, but it's still a matter of upheaval. And, we were renovating the house that we're currently in, and it's just complete upheaval of your life. So I am very sensitive to that. I moved a lot because when I got divorced, I had 2 little kids and I bought a half a duplex, and then I built a house, and then we moved out of that one into another one I built, and then I had rentals. So I'm very sensitive to the stress that can come with that. And I will tell you that I took my certification in behavior change management while I was working at Chevron. That's a big part of what I did. And I use that training every single day. So how do you manage the transition? Well, we talk about all
Exactly.
kinds of tools to manage that transition. How do I get this house packed up and remain sane doing it? Well, we talk a lot about that. And gratefully, since I've moved here, I've met a number of people whose jobs kind of work in conjunction with mine. So I work pretty closely with a junk removal company who are very, very focused on finding homes for the things that they're taking out that you don't want to take to your next house. I work very closely with a woman who does senior downsizing and transition, who is also fabulous and so good at what she does. And I work with an electrician that will come and hang your lights if you don't have somebody. I work very closely with a woman who handles estate sales. So you get a community around you and you learn to navigate the community. And I'm always blown away at the talent of the entrepreneurs that work in this city. It's really
Absolutely.
incredible.
No question about it. We have an incredible, and all over Vancouver Island, this program actually reaches from, into Cowichan and up into just sort of the border of Courtenay, Comox, and then over to the Sunshine Coast. And what I know for certain is that in this catchment area, there are incredibly talented people. I'm so glad to have you on the program to include you as one of those fabulous, talented people. So thank you for being here. It's just fantastic. A few minutes ago, we told people to go get a piece of paper and a pen. Now is a great time to be able to give them some information about how they can reach you and bend your ear and talk to you and learn from you as to what to do next. How do people find you?
So they can look up my website. It is www.chrysalis, CHRYSALIS, creativehomestaging.com. They can look there, but I am probably more active on Instagram and on Facebook. So they can look up my social media just by looking up Chrysalis Home Staging. And that will show our current and recent projects. They can take a look and see exactly what I do by looking at the social media stuff that we do.
Fabulous.
Otherwise, they can call me. My phone number is 403-828-5141. And the reason that's a 403 number is that they no longer change your area code when you move because people have cell phones. So they just kind of leave it as that, which is fine with me. But if they've got questions or would like to find out more, they're absolutely welcome to reach out. And I'm very responsive to text messaging as long as you tell me who you are and what you're looking for.
Very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm
Fabulous.
very happy to answer questions. This is just, I love to educate people about what I do because it's just such a great.
Well, even from our listeners' perspective, you have a very rich voice, and I'm sure that people are feeling, I know that myself, I've had a few aha moments already through our conversation, and so I can see, our listeners wanting to reach out and go, "Hey, what about?" And I'm curious about, and tell me more. And so I do hope that people will contact you and find out more information about how your services can actually support them in their transition. And transition is an important thing for all of us. And if we can do it in a way that's so much less stressful and creates so much better of a yield at the end of the day, then, it's a win-win all the way around. So I'm really glad that people can do that. For those of you as well that missed that information and you check us out on our YouTube channel, I will make sure that we have a link in there for you as well with your contact information so people can certainly reach out to you from that perspective. We're not quite at that time to close off the program yet, but I do love the concepts of some of the things that you've been talking about. And I wonder, I noticed that in many of the painting advertisements and many of the, there's things that are popular, more popular in this time than other periods. What would you say are some of the trends that you're seeing in staging? What are people, you did mention that you have gold and the blacks and all of that. What do you think is coming up? What do you see people looking towards as they're making decisions on homes for color and context?
I can tell you that the days of gray and white are done.
Okay.
I just came back from Las Vegas in July. We have our Real Estate Staging Association convention there. Right now, the trends that are coming in, so I did go to the furniture market, which means that you go and you see what is coming up for the following few years.
Yeah.
Cream, black, gold, natural woods. So silver, gray, and white are kind of trending out. White's classic, but the bottom line is you're not going to see builders building gray and white boxes anymore. That trend was for 10 years and has kind of moved on. So warmer finishes are coming in.
Hmm.
The other thing I'll say is that there's a huge trend right now in design that's called biophilic design. And at the convention, the keynote speaker that we had was discussing what biophilic design is, and that is bringing the indoor or outdoors into your indoors. So I don't know, you've probably noticed looking at, at your background that plants are a huge deal.
Yeah,
They're, everybody and their dog wants 10,000 plants now, which I love because I have thousands of them in
me
my
too. I have a
staging
lot.
inventory. Mine are
I
all
probably
fake.
have too many plants in my house at this point. I have an 830 square foot home. There's no more room for one more, even a small plant. I can't find
Baby
more
plant.
space on. Yeah, I hear you.
So biophilic design is a huge trend right now for a couple of reasons. There have been a number of studies done on the effect of biophilia, so plants and nature, on how the human psyche operates.
Yes.
So they have shown in studies, and I don't, you never know who they are, but apparently this was done by very reputable medical studies were done to talk about the effect of hospitalization on people and what happens if they can see one tree outside their window. And they have found that patients who can see one tree use 20% less pain medication, and they stay on average 1 day less in the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So they're starting to use biophilic design in schools. So a lot of schools that you'll see that they're building now will have a tree in the entryway, or a lot more greenery in the playground and not just your concrete playground outside. A
Thank
lot of
goodness.
tech companies are using that now as well because it tends to affect the creativity of your employees if you've got sort of those natural elements in the house. So that's a big trend that's coming this way too. It's a lot of natural woods, natural fibers, sort of that cocooning feeling instead of the sterile feeling of the gray and white that we had for such a long time. It was a whole decade that every
Yes.
house I went into that was new was gray and white and
Hmm.
chrome.
Hmm.
And so we're seeing a trend of much more warm, cozy spaces.
Mm.
Also, floor plans are changing to some degree. So um, everybody wanted a super open floor plan and sort of that New York loft feel. And now they're starting to have more enclosed spaces in floor plans too. Not completely like the old chakra block, tiny little rooms. But definitely you're seeing a trend towards having a cozy room off of sort of your open area or that sort of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, staying on top of trends is definitely a big part of my job. And every year I go to Vegas and I go and I attend my convention. So I get educated every single year. I keep
Wow.
in trends, and I go to the furniture market because that's just a huge part of what's coming up. And if I can make
Mm.
if I can make a property feel like it's current and understand how to do that with strategic, smaller changes that are cost effective, that's a huge part of what I do. So, pretty important to do that.
I'm just so happy that you came on the program today. And I am so glad that we have a professional in our community that we can turn to for these very, very important ways for us to increase the potential profits from our home while at the same time remaining current and understanding that transition is such a big part of this whole process of moving takes a lot out of us. It really, really does. I know it did for me. The idea of ever moving again for me is like, oh my God, especially as we age, right? When people are
Right.
downsizing and I'm at that age where I bought a house that I probably will never move out of because I can be in it until the day I pass. But for those larger homes that need to be downsized, finding and choosing the right way to present, I think is so important. Thank you very much, Ellen, for being with us today. As we close out, one more time, I'm going to ask you to please share with us your information on how people can find you. And yeah, and then we'll talk about my favorite part of the program, which is, that little piece of wisdom, which frankly, I think in the show itself, you've given us so many pieces of wisdom. Thank you so much for that. How do people find you?
So my website again is chrysaliscreativehomestaging.com. And I'm on social media, just look up Chrysalis Home Staging, and you should be able to find me. Also, my phone number again is 403-828-5141. And being an introvert, I always prefer text, but
I have the same characteristics. I'm an extrovert introvert. It's one thing to be when you're in this forum, and it's another thing in person. So I get
completely
you.
different.
It's
Yeah.
entirely different. So I understand entirely. Thank you again for being here. What would you say, if you could, to imbibe on our community, in this last decade or time period that you've been doing this work? What stands out most for you that people should, take as their takeaway from today's conversation?
I think the fact that the real estate community honestly is a breed unto itself. So certain personality types kind of go into different jobs.
Yeah.
And I have found that the real estate community has been just incredible helpers. If you're having a personal problem and you miss a meeting, this community does clearly reach out and say, gee, are you okay? Like, I know you missed our meeting today. Is there anything I can do to help you? Which has been just a really big sentimental part of what I do. I love the community I work in. They tend to volunteer a lot with the local charities, which we're trying to do as well. I think we probably are going to be doing an intake room for one of the charities so that people coming into transitional housing feel comfortable when they come in. Uh,
Mm.
and I think giving back to the community is a huge part of what I do in my business and what I find this whole community does. So the nugget I have for you is just to be kind to the people around you. And as a closing, I'm going to give you the cheapest staging hack on the planet. And that is,
Yes.
we are heading into the fall market, and you know that it's starting to get dark sooner at night. If a person is looking to purchase a house, if they live somewhere close by, like in, the area that your program covers, they're very likely going to try and do a drive-by of the house. So if they're moving within an hour and a half of where they're looking, they're going to do a drive-by, and that generally happens in the evening. And if you drive by a house that is dark, it looks foreboding and not welcoming, and you will turn them off. If you turn the lights on in the rooms that face the street in the evening and they drive by and they see that beautiful golden glow out of the windows, that's going to feel a lot
Oh,
more like a home. So
oh, so true.
get a $3 timer at Dollarama and put your lights on facing the street in the evening, you'll be doing yourself a favor.
Wow, that is an awesome piece of wisdom. I love that. I think overall that we should have that for everyone to sort of feel that sense of community on our streets, on our blocks, on our corners. I think that it's not just for selling your house, it's also for being a participant in community. What a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, Alan. It's been a pleasure to have you on the program today. I am really, really glad I got to spend this time with you. I know our listeners will be glad as well. Thanks
Thanks
again.
so much.